to the second speaker of the day. To introduce our esteemed speaker, please welcome the Chief Admin and Finance Officer of Web Technology Incorporated, the beautiful Ms. May Alvarez.
Good morning, everyone. I am honored to introduce to you our next guest speaker. He holds a doctorate degree in instructional technology from the University of Twente, the Netherlands. He has been working in the field of instructional technology for higher education for more than 20 years. Currently, he is a faculty member of the Department of Psychology and Master of Science program of Educational Technology at Universitas Pelita Harapan, Jakarta, Indonesia. Besides his teaching duties, he is working as the director of the Center for Teaching and Learning at the same university. His research interest is in the integration of technology in teaching and learning to improve the quality of learning towards student success and online courses, quality assurance framework. Since 2021, he has actively involved in establishing the Indonesian Cyber Education Institute, founded by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, Republic of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome and applause to our guest speaker, Dr. Rihanto Purbo.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me this morning, and especially for Natila, who has invited me to come to speak this morning. And I'm very delighted and honored to be in front of you to share what we are working with in our university. My name is introduced as Rihanto. I am the Director of Center for Teaching and Learning and also the faculty member. I would like to thank also to Max and Moodle headquarters in general that has been introduced me with Natila about 2 years ago in EduTech Asia. So last year we managed successfully to upgrade our Moodle system into 4.1, and we look forward for long-term engagement projects like Moodle Workplace and Moodle 4.4 or even 4.5. I don't have to show this one. Well, as we are here talking about Moodle as our LMS, my presentation today with the title of The Hidden Gem of Moodle Data, Predicting Student Success to Data Analytic Model, might reveal other sides of issue after you install and use Moodle after quite some time. Basically, our Moodle will produce a lot of data. It is a resource of information. For example, during pandemic COVID-19, our department were asked to identify student at risk, even inactive students, missing students, or sometimes we have to evaluate faculty member performance in teaching online. However, within this massive data, we don't know for sure how much we could preserve and later on analyze the data further. Currently, we want to predict the success of the students. That's our focus as we apply student-centered learning in our classrooms. This is our main principles. So in a few minutes, I'm going to share what we think about student success and how much Moodle data analytics can provide us with a lot of information. I hope to encourage you also to motivate and stimulate the discussion today and later on to develop our beloved Moodle LMS. So these are the outline of my presentations. I'm going to introduce a little bit about Indonesia. This is our country. As we share some commonalities, problems, and challenges. Like Geographically, we span from east to west more than 5,000 kilometers. We are in 3 different time zones. We have more than 17,000 islands, and we are mostly as the 4th largest country in the world. Culturally, there are a lot of subcultures and language dialects, ethnicities, religious backgrounds, and technology is quite challenging because the quality of the data transactions from location to data location is quite varied. And we don't want to say that we pretty much problems in the technology utilizations, but as you saw in the last presentation yesterday, we are maybe number 4 at least at the top 10 of ChatGPT users and Moodle users. However, there is, I can say, unequal challenges in accessing and adoption of technology in our education sector. So we have to understand this, and we want to know how we operate later on in our university. This is our university. We operate in 3 different geographical locations. The main campus itself in Jakarta. We have 16,000 students with about 750 faculty members. We work in multiple campus locations like in North Sumatra, East Java, and central administration is in Jakarta. We have a long history of Moodle installations and also the integration of some systems inside the Moodle itself. So obviously we have some challenges in our operations. Like I've shown in here, that we have diverse and large number of students. We also have a lot of different study programs. And as a private university, we are pretty much dependent on the student intakes. For us, student success is a key for operational excellence, that how we can deliver our quality of education. Sorry. Yes. So I'm going to explore a little bit about the importance of data-driven decisions making in higher education, in to what extent we could understand the data produced by our Moodle and what kind of predictive data we can utilize to employ the understanding about the student success through Moodle. So these are some points that I'm going to explore a little bit, so hang on with me. It's going to be a little bit tough morning. So most of the universities nowadays are quite familiar with the student success model, especially if you are talking about US-based model. And recently in Asia, I think they are pretty much pressured that our university also to adopt this model. To be honest, this is not an easy model. A student success model basically based on the performance. Student performance, I mean either it's dropout, persistence, or student success. However, it is basically an outcome of human performance. So we are not talking here about just about retention or dropout, but experiencing a success in the student's trajectory. That's what we mean with student success. So it can be as academic success, or it can be a success in the life after the academic life, for the career, for example. So promoting student success means that we need to understand student as a whole human that can complete the program requirement and graduate also, although in very difficult situations. Other students might not have success in this study trajectory easily. So we have to adopt a certain model as we live in the very complex situations. In this diagram, you can imagine that we put the student in the middle of the diagram on the left part, you can see. So that's the life problem. As a human, entities, we have to evaluate our day-to-day activity moving forward and backward also. For instance, we reflect upon what we had in the past and we want to move further in our further life stages. In the horizontal axis, that's the dimension of evaluations. That's what just I explained about the daily activities. It influences values, attitude, and actions that we do every day. In the vertical axis is the dimension of the dimension that related with cognition and cognition. Cognition relates with the mental or psychological aspect, while cognition focuses on the action, how will we act. The student success model is a complex model. It has 4 interconnected models, and the left part is basically the student side, and the right part is the institution part, that is our higher education. The assumption here is that the theoretical model is the normative model. While it applies to every individual and every school, while the empirical model is pretty much local and it applies specifically to a certain institution. It means that we have to carefully define what the student success means in our institution. At the same time, we have some freedom to understand how they behave in our institution. So, if we work operationally with the base assumptions about how we operate as higher education, this is not always true. We can assume that students keep coming, students will still need us, that we can provision our education, but in reality, it is not. So we have to be careful with these assumptions, since it is very important to understand there are some barriers that we can define by theory. There are some students' barriers that we can survey them. There are some barriers that we can assume that students will face, but in reality might be not. The second factors that we have to do in our to look after for this assumption is that the set of the knowledge. Sometimes we assume that students will just study in our institution and they need the knowledge what we call the knowledge that we call heuristic knowledge and also the academic competence. The totality, that means that students will experience fully, that is not only in the classroom but also the outside the classroom that they have to experience in order to gain a complete knowledge what we call student success. That means that they will complete the academic life in our institution. So this assumption is not entirely true. So we have to think about the local model, which gives us more freedom. That means that we have to go into a little bit further in our institutions. We have to look which specific barrier that our student might face, or they already face it, that it will hinder their knowledge acquisition, for example, and in which and how, which actions that students have deployed, and how the faculty member also have seriously taken care of the student barrier. As institutions, we also have to look on the actions, policy, regulations, also some student support that have been determined to help the students locally. The problem itself might occur while any faculty member or even institution has applied several actions, but the barrier will not go away. So this is a kind of parameter that we can define locally, and the parameter is also very dynamic from time to time. So in my conclusion for the first theoretical framework is that here we have to look of the discrepancy between this model by defining the parameter locally, and we want to see always the discrepancies between these two models, either it's normative or this is empirical, and we have to look the data moving from time to time, reflecting the student problem, barrier, and any action that have been taken care by the faculty member or the institutions. So as yesterday, Matt also remind us that how we understand students, this problem will not go away, That means when we do the technology integration, we have to understand to what extent and how much a problem we can define and we want to solve it. So nowadays, higher education is expected to grow and develop itself. We have to develop ourselves as institutions to innovate further. We integrated technology, we use data as a part of the evidence to make decisions. It is now required. It is not new approach, it is a long history of quantitative and qualitative data utilization in decision making. It will transform our institutions, and we must harness the analytic revolutions also. We need to help our leaders and also other stakeholders such as parents and our students to accelerate the culture of evidence also. We believe it will enhance student experience and identify students at risk in their study trajectory. And from the institution development perspective, it is an effort to increase the equity and sustainability. So, this is a fundamental understanding about the data analytic. So, as yesterday also we saw some presentations talking about the Moodle analytic. Big data analytic is a common terminology, and there are some boundaries about understanding what is big data basically. We need a system that can capture the data, clean up the data, and later on we can analyze it. We also need a cycle that processes rapidly and highly iterative to get the data. So big data basically a massive growth of data transactions and the explosion of data resource that it will happen once we manage and utilize in our Moodle LMS. In education data mining, volume, the amount of data, variety of data, structural diversity of data, and velocity, the pace of data integration and its transition to analysis requires careful attention. The veracity or the accuracy or reliability of data in terms of validity must be taken care while analyzing the data as evidence to support academic decisions. So we do have several approaches in data analytics, starting from the simple one. You can imagine, you can just visualize data, but also you can apply machine learning model predictions, and later on you go more deep with the artificial intelligence. In the presentation of Mr. Jun yesterday, it was also mentioned about the capabilities of our Moodle to apply machine learning model, and we can analyze and predict the student behavior later on. And we want to teach our Moodle in our institutions to understand our student data patterns to come up with a kind of interpretation and prediction also. These are some, this is an example of a research employing a data analytic model in machine learning model to understand the student success. So as you know, our Moodle, it has a lot of our data. Even in during our implementation problem with Nafila, it is a little bit difficult to manage the data log. In our study, in our university, I myself have published some literature study and some research paper about how we can utilize Moodle features to understand faculty members' behavior and also the student behavior. Every Moodle activity such as resources, quizzes, assignments are beneficial artifact of data, and also the activities that left by students can be further analyzed. In our Moodle, we apply a complex model when we integrate a lot of systems, subsystems. Let's say we have SIS integrations. We use Oracle Campus Solutions. We also have Office 365 as our productivity application, including the Microsoft Teams. We have the Panopto server. Inside the Moodle itself, we play around with some plugins like similarity check, proctoring programs, attendance plugins, H5P, and so forth. We have now Moodle 4.1 as the implementation from Netvilla. Since the beginning of this year, we already have 800 million raw or log data, or it's equal to more than 470 gigabyte storage. This is, yesterday was mentioned by Mr. Jun as ginormous data. We don't know exactly what to do, but by understanding what I just explained, we might do and play around with some understanding in this model. So, in our university, we apply a blended learning strategy, and also we have one specific distance learning program. So besides the classroom session, students are expected to learn using the web-based technology in Moodle. They have to be active in online session. In example, in discussion forum, they have to submit assignments punctually and seriously. They have to gain grade from the assignments, do quiz accordingly, and do also other grade activities. Students will receive final grades through Moodle gradebook, and the final grade is transferred back to the student information system as the evidence of the course completion. So in this study, for these presentations, we try to use a kind of methodology where we can employ a machine learning model. So this is the structure of the data. We use the data from our Moodle log in terms of post and reply in the forum. The forum grade, click, assignments attempt, quiz attempt, other graded activities, and also the final grade from the Moodle gradebook. And then we apply the random forest classifier model as one of the machine learning model. We train and test the prediction outside the system first. In the future, maybe we can insert that back to the Moodle Analytics. So we utilize about 3 academic years data. We end up with 12,579 student data points. This is relatively compared small to the totality of our Moodle log. Okay. If you are not familiar with the random forest model, random forest classifier is a supervised model in machine learning. We have carefully selected this model among others because it is commonly used to train machine to analyze data pattern and relatively easy to use. Basically, we apply this machine learning model. We want to teach our Moodle to predict if students with their expected learning behavior will success in their study. So later on, we will identify which students having problems, difficulties, or barriers, and what are the study barriers, and to what extent they feel the barriers. We have a long history about how to utilize different machine learning model. Last year, we had also analysis in identifying which courses in our Moodle is inactive or less active also. So this time, in my presentation, I want to show you how this model can help us to predict and identify students in barrier. This is an example of the data set. We take mostly student activities result in the log file, and we classify them. And then we also do a kind of correlation study. If you see the result, the first 2 parameters correlations are related with the interaction among students and faculty members in the forum. This will show you how important the student interaction in the forum compared to the student result. And the last three parameters or relations are related with the graded activities, such as their attempt to do assignments, quizzes, and other graded activities. These are, although the last three are not really correlate, but they are significant. So in our predictions analysis, we trained the system by doing a human categorization first, applying in the Excel sheet. We identify the result of the grade book into three categories: good, less good, and bad result. And based on these predictions, we ask the model, the random forest classifier, also to predict with the following data how much they can identify problematic students based on the grade, based on the total grade of each student. So this is the basic structure how we employ the random forest analytic. We end up with 70.6 accuracy, and by utilizing 75% of the data from these 2,000 data points, that means that we use 9,000 plus data as the training, and then the rest of the 3,000 plus student points as the testing data. Then what we come from this 70.6%. So what we learn from here, the 70.6 accuracy actually is not satisfying for us. However, we are very happy with this result. That means we can utilize Moodle data to make predictions of student success, at least from their academic life. So later on, faculty member and the department can focus to other activities at the outside of the class for their heuristic knowledge. Let's say how they experience in the internship programs, how they experience with the student activities. I think we still need to improve the accuracy and also the sensitivity of the model by taking larger and longer data set. Probably we have to input also more parameters from learning activities and perhaps even some demographic data. There are some factors that might relate with this accuracy and prediction, such as the student variation, course variations, and also course characteristics. You can imagine if you design the course inconsistently, you might also expect the student will behave differently in our Moodle. You can also imagine if the faculty member could not provide meaningful feedback in Moodle, students also will behave passively. So I hope I have inspired you. We would like to share this thanks as a proof that we can utilize and we can really find the benefit of managing the log data from Moodle. I understand that operationally it's quite challenging to preserve the data and how to analyze it for the later purpose. Our motivation to use Moodle data as an evidence of academic decision making progress. But I think it has been successfully to fill this purpose of current stage, how we utilize our Moodle. There are still some freedom from that higher education institution to determine its own student success model with the help of the objective evidence such as data from our Moodle, even from integration of our Moodle with our student information system. For us, we want to implement this machine learning model in our LMS, so our LMS could predict the student academic success during their study. And AI also will be the future. However, before we go further with AI, I would like to draw attention to the importance of how we can manage our institutional data successfully, and we have also to understand how AI model works and to what extent we can understand the model behind the AI by exercising these kind of activities, how you can apply a learning machine model to understand your data. So I think this is a fundamental understanding before we go further with AI implementation in our LMS. So as a closing, I would like to share some of our reflection. For those who have not integrated the Moodle with the SIS, I think this is very important in the later stage that you need to integrate the Moodle with SIS. That means you can profile your students and you can believe that the data produced by the LMS is really valid to understand the student behavior in the LMS. You need to design also appropriate learning model for your institution in analyzing the data. In our case, we have tried different models from the supervised, unsupervised model, then we end up with this model as the most optimum model for us. However, for your case, might be a different model. You need to apply also a careful course design and development based on the learning model that is adopted by your own institution. In our case, we have issued a rectorate or the president decree that every faculty member should apply the learning strategy, at least, in a certain proportions of online versus on-site activities. And then we have to employ the consistent instructional design strategy. We need a team to support the faculty member so they can produce and develop the course consistently and they keep updating the course into a certain quality standard. We keep the Moodle data. If you have smaller Moodle database, small capacity, that means you can still reserve the Moodle log data in the external system, let's say by utilizing other types of visualization or data analysis application. You have also to determine what is certain success parameters for your institutions. You have to preliminary study to understand what are the barriers and how students usually solve the problem and to what extent the institution can help them to solve that barriers. We have to also determine the data set parameter and how long the data parameter we think it is valid to do the analysis. Another reflection that we have from this work is that data cleansing is important. Data cleansing usually requires a lot of effort before we can analyze. And then we have to improve our faculty members and leaders into the data literacy competencies. Otherwise, they will also not understand what we have been trying to visualize to them and how the system predict certain behavior of our student in the future. That's it what we want to share with you. Thank you very much. If there are some questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rianto Purgoyo. So at this point, the floor is open for your questions. Yes, ma'am. Table number 7.
Hello, good morning. I'm Dr. Andrea Stanton, University of Guam. Thank you for sharing this presentation and for modeling what that large-scale data analysis would look like in Moodle. It looks like it might have taken a large team of people and a long time to do that work. So, and can you share that quickly, how long it took and how many people were involved? And then I have a follow-up question as well.
I think in our experience, it is not a matter of number of employees that we assign to do this task, but the coordinations. Because we basically put our software in our IT department. So when we want to pull the data, so we need to coordinate with the IT to extend the bandwidth, let's say, so my staff can get the data. However, if you are talking about the support systems that we have, in my department, Center for Teaching and Learning, we have 18 staff members, close to 20. We hope to grow until 22 this year. we have 2 or 3 staff assigned specifically to manage the Moodle server. That means they also have to monitor the log data. At the leadership positions, nowadays there has been heavy discussion about how to produce the dashboard for them. We want to use Power BI visualization. That means that later on we can show the summary of data from the Moodle itself. At this moment, we have summary data from inactive to less active and very active course. And you can identify each faculty member behavior related with the features of the Moodle. Let's say if they have graded the assignments timely or not. So I think in terms of human resources, it can be reduced if you have a kind of a data management system and you need also a kind of application to summarize the data.
Thank you very much. And your comments led into my next question very nicely. And that's the question about faculty evaluations. Recently, I'm new into my role as an administrator of our Center for Online Learning. Last week, a dean came to me and asked for access to one of our faculty's Moodle classrooms. And this made me very uncomfortable. It would be like a dean coming and asking for the keys to your office and then going in after hours and poking around and digging in your computer. So I'm wondering if your institution has a policy about protecting faculty Moodle classrooms and what parameters or access administration has to get in and look at faculty behavior and faculty resources.
I would like to address that carefully because it all depends on the learning culture in your institution and also the organizational culture. At least in our case, we apply transparency. Even the faculty member feel it's more helpful if one of the administrative staff takes involved in Moodle course. Let's say for taking the attendance list, sometimes faculty members just want to put the take mark. So the faculty member can take care of that. Grade transfer. We have custom plugins for that, so faculty member can immediately transfer the final grade and the components of the grade to the SIS easily in just one click button. But sometimes they just forgot. Monitoring is another issue. We apply the policy that the head of the study program and the dean can have the category access. That means they can observe by themselves. We also say that to the faculty members that we in the Center for Teaching and Learning also monitor all this process. Because the central organization keep asking us, and the top leadership position also keep asking us whether how active our faculty member in our Moodle. That will relate to the budget decision every year and how big the storage we have to buy every year. So it's a complex issue. However, I can say that transparency in policy, I think that's what we employ until now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question? All right, there being none, sir, we would like to thank you very much for sharing with us the value of Moodle data in predicting student success and how it affects decision making. So at this point, I'd like to invite the President and CEO of the PhilaWeb Technology, Ms. Cheryl Villaroman, to please join me on stage to present the Certificate of Appreciation. Moodlemoot Philippines 2024 presents the Certificate of Appreciation to Dr. Rianto Porboyo in grateful recognition for sharing his invaluable knowledge and experience to the participants of the Moodlemoot Philippines 2024.